the years I was developing this curriculum, I deliberated heavily on what the right software was to teach. It wasn't until I was having a conversation with a colleague in the same field who said, "They're all the same. The buttons are just in different places." While this was an oversimplification, I laughed at how it was more or less true. Truth is, if you learn one piece of software well, you can pretty easily pick up another one. There are enough similarities in terms of the functionality and interface amongst them, and they've all been around so long that they have actually influenced one another in terms of features. I've used all of the major software platforms out there and can attest for the degree of similarity I've witnessed in all of their capabilities. That said, most 3D software has evolved into incredibly powerful toolkits that allow you to do most everything in the 3D pipeline all from one screen. Some of these capabilities include modeling and sculpting, texturing, rigging and skinning, animating, motion capture, rendering, visual effects, particle simulation, soft body and dynamics, match moving, video editing, virtual reality, 3D printing, and real-time rendering. Despite the fact they are capable of all these different things, most animators use only a fraction of these tools, depending on the type of work they do. The convenience comes from the ease of workflow when every stage of production can be contained within the same software package. While there are a bunch of different 3D software platforms out there, here are the three that are currently industry standards for character animation. Autodesk Maya is the industry standard, used at film and television studios big and small. Maya was originally a programming language developed by Wavefront Technologies that would later be developed even further due to a collaboration with Disney Animation Studios in the early 2000s. Suffice to say, it has been there since the inception of 3D animation, so it is synonymous with the entire industry. Autodesk 3D Studio Max is another industry standard, however more so in the gaming industry. There are two Autodesk products listed here because Autodesk acquired Maya in 2005, and despite talks to merge both softwares over the years, the programming language has become too complex to combine them, and the industry is both loyal and stable enough even with both softwares in existence. And Cinema 4D, developed by German company Maxon, which has become nearly as powerful as the two current Autodesk platforms, but has become a favorite within the motion graphics industry for its more user-friendly interface. Both Maya and 3D Studio Max are very complicated softwares, rooted in an affinity for code. Cinema 4D has a much more visual and node-based interface, making it a more convenient and more approachable option for creators who need to do things quickly within the marketing and advertising space. Then comes Blender, the obscure stepchild of 3D software platforms. It has been around just as long as some of the other platforms, circa the mid-90s. However, the key difference is Blender has always been free, open-source software. From its initial release by Dutch animation studio Neo Geo in '98, the software has gone through various iterations, from dead to resurrected via a crowdfunding campaign in 2002. To this day, the source code is developed by the community and a dedicated team of developers. I refer to Blender as the silent disruptor of the industry. It is essentially the industry's response to itself in order to create a level playing field. The reason it is a disruptor is because it doesn't have to play by the rules of a consumer-driven market. Features are directly incorporated by the community and added to the software's code at an accelerated pace, possible due to the lack of corporate oversight and profit-driven decision-making. At the end of the day, I decided to use Blender as the central 3D software for this curriculum because continued releases took it from relative obscurity within the industry to an unabashed contender. The fact that it is free is just icing on the cake. This is just the beginning for Blender, as it is hitting its stride and more studios are noticing. 3D animation as a profession has largely been privatized to specialized schools that require a ton of money to attend. Not to mention, the software is much too pricey for the average person to afford. It's been this way ever since 3D animation was offered as a career choice. This never made sense to me. It's already one of the hardest creative professions in existence, so much so you'd have to be crazy to pursue it. So why on earth do we need to pay an arm and a leg too? Being an animator should be an option for everyone, and Blender makes that option possible for future generations. You can learn everything you need to know about 3D animation in Blender. If you start at a studio that uses something else, like Maya, rest assured all of your techniques and fundamentals carry over. You just need to learn a new arrangement of all the same buttons. As you begin learning Blender, remember that the Animation Society is primarily focused on animation. While we delve into a lot of other parts of the animation process when it comes to 2.5D animation or motion graphics, such as creating 2D characters, sets, and props, in 3D animation each part of the pipeline requires a great deal of skill, such as modeling, rigging, texturing, or rendering. And to take on all these other disciplines when just starting out is overwhelming to a new student of 3D animation. However, as I tell all my students, a great animator understands that they are dead center in the production pipeline, so they should understand the process that comes before them, as well as the process that follows. The lessons you're about to learn will teach you enough about each of these other disciplines to A. Allow you to understand generally how they work, B. Learn essential techniques needed for you to be industry ready, and C. Give you enough context in which to learn more about each discipline if you choose to. That said, the most extensive lessons will pertain to animation techniques. When it comes to your big projects and portfolio work, everything else will be provided for you. You'll be given 3D character rigs to work off of, but you will understand how these rigs are constructed, how to make slight modifications to their geometry and add things like props, and make adjustments to textures and colors. You have plenty to learn just as an animator, thus why we want to ease the learning curve for you a bit. Now, a few important things to note before we proceed. Blender is available on Linux, Windows, and Mac OS, so regardless of your hardware or software, you'll be able to use this program. It does not require an internet connection to function unless you're using third-party plugins that require it. When we say Blender is free, it really means free. Blender is classified as having a GNU General Public License, meaning you are free to use Blender for any purpose, free to distribute Blender, free to study how Blender works and change it, and free to distribute changed versions of Blender. No other 3D software platform offers this level of freedom. However, this does not affect you as much as this next point. What you create with Blender is your sole property. Artwork, images, or movie files, including .blend files and other data files Blender can write, is free for you to use as you like. Blender can be used commercially by artists, by studios to make animated films or visual effects, by game artists to work on commercial games, by scientists for research, and by students in educational institutions. So not only are you allowed to use this software to learn the 3D animation pipeline, but you can create work that you can sell without having to pay a licensing fee, like you do with Maya or Cinema 4D, which can be in the thousands of dollars. To learn more about the general public license, go to blender.org/about/license. So now that you've learned a little bit about Blender and why it's the tool for animation students, I think you're ready to open up the application and dive in. To download the latest stable release, go to blender.org/download. Note, the version of software that I am currently using will most likely be a bit older than yours, as updates are frequently released by developers. The majority of these updates do not affect the overall functionality or appearance of the interface, they simply integrate additional tools. If major changes to the software occur in a future release, I make it a priority to update our videos to better align you to the lesson material. Once you have successfully installed Blender onto your computer, you can go ahead and move on to the next lesson.